We are back and we are joined by Van Lathan, co-host of the Ringers Higher Learning podcast. Very happy to have Van on. I've been a fan for a while. And then, you started complimenting us, and so makes it pretty easy to invite you on the show. Thanks so much for coming on.
I love you guys.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
All
I
right.
love, I specifically love the way Sam says Social Security. Whenever he's talking about Social Security, he goes, Social Security. It's like Social
Yeah.
Security. I like that. I love watching you guys because you guys have been able to do two things. Number one, you keep me updated on all the news and like rooting out the BS in the news, but also you guys keep tabs on the other platforms as well. So I can see how Crowder's imploding right here. I can see how Jink is imploding right here. I only have to go to one place right here on the Majority Report. I'm so thrilled to be here.
It's the one-stop shop for all your like media drama. I mean, it really started, I think, where Sam, it's if he wants to talk about, as you say, Social Security, um, if he's doing it through a criticism of Tim Pool, we'll get 200,000 views on that video or something like that. But if we did an
Yeah.
explainer about Social Security, it's going to get 10,000 views. So in the end, we are having fun. That's mostly what we enjoy, but it's also an attempt to hopefully inform people as we do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's really good content. The entire, people have talked about the infrastructure, the media infrastructure on the left. I actually think it's really healthy. I think there's many notable people that you can listen to and get a lot of great information from, and you guys are certainly one of them.
So you think it's healthier than like the Daily Wire and them having all those right wing backers? And I mean that's what's fascinating about that is just like how much money is in that space. I mean, it's inconceivable to me to think about how they can basically run that operation. Like it's a small it's a real corporation, as opposed to us here in the studio where some our water doesn't work every month or something like that. They have it going on.
The difference is they have a main line to the most powerful people in their party. They
Yeah.
legitimately have a main line to them. They are intellectually and culturally codified by the actual power brokers in their party in a way that the left media isn't. They're You guys are still, in my opinion, I haven't watched one of these shows and seen real heavy hitters, White House chiefs of staff, big think tank people like popping up on these shows. That hasn't happened. The the Democrats still have sort of a hands-off relationship with parts of left media, and I'm not sure why. The Pod Save guys and all of those guys are a little bit more tapped into it. But
Right.
on the right, the money is coming directly from the source. They've like they're tapping the oil derrick, and it's going right to them. And they reap the benefits of that. Like they get to go and hang out and sit in these rooms and be a part of these think tanks and be on these panels and be on all of this stuff. They uh, lead CPAP or whatever, CPAC. They get to do all that stuff. So that
But
still hasn't happened on the left. Yeah.
it shows up in the fact in the politics of the parties too, right? Where the Republicans embrace their base. Hey, they want Donald Trump. I think Stephen A said it on Pod Save the other day. We played that clip. They want Donald Trump. They got Donald Trump. They got him twice. But when the
Mhm.
Democrats want Bernie Sanders, no, no, no. It's time to shut up and accept Hillary Clinton. When the Democrats don't want Joe Biden to run again, no, no, no. We're going to change the primary schedule to benefit Joe Biden so that nobody notices that his cognition is failing. And when the primary is over, it's essentially too late. And I think that has real consequences. When you don't make the base of your party feel empowered over their leaders, you're going to lose more often than you should. And right now, that's the reality we're living with.
I don't know if the Democrats know what the base of their party is, and I don't know if I know
Yeah.
because I'll say this: when when the whole defunding the police thing was happening, I remember explaining defunding to the police, not to your dyed in the wool MAGA Republicans. I remember explaining it to my mother and my grandmother. These are people who voted Democrat for
Their whole life.
generations. I remember explaining it to my aunts. I remember explaining what they meant because they're looking around the neighborhoods that they live in and they're going, well, I mean, we need the police. Like we need them here. I don't know if you guys know where we live. And I'm like, well, let's envision a world where we invest in ways that you don't need so much police because the people are taken care of. Let's have that conversation. And that to me is the kind of thing that we haven't really seen the Democrats or the broad left be able to figure out. Because like if the base is the 92% of Black women that vote for the Democratic Party or the Black Americans or centrist Democrats or whatever, they are different than some of my friends that are on the left.
Yes.
They are different. And so somebody who can bridge that gap or enough conversations happening between those two different groups, I think is a real challenge. Whereas there seems to be at least a lot more intellectual homogeny on the other side.
I think you're hitting on something really important, and it's just something that I want to incorporate into our coverage. It's why I've been emphasizing, even though I think sometimes it touches a nerve because people don't want you to excuse the Democratic Party for its failings. But if I don't emphasize the role of racism and misogyny in Kamala Harris's loss, like we're losing whole sections of people where that's their lived experience, and also who understand they voted for Democrats their whole lives, not because they don't, they're going to excuse whatever the party does, but because they know what it feels like when Republicans are in power. And not what it feels like, but what it does to their lives, how it materially affects them. And so when we're having conversations that are not as constructive or intersectional, it just comes off like criticism and people that don't care about whether or not Republicans are empowered, and by extension don't care about me and what my experiences are going to be.
Yeah, I think everything that you just said is true. My yes and would be that it's not the ideas or even the history that I see. It's a lot of times some of my friends, my truly leftist friends, they are so connected to the idea of the world that they want, right? And it's things that they realize that people really shouldn't have issues with. If I say single payer healthcare, people go, yeah, of course. These are all populist ideas, right? And they go, so why doesn't everybody get on board with them? I think sometimes there's actually there's a translation gap here. Like this stuff doesn't get culturally translated. Yeah. Like there are ideas that are very popular, but the mechanisms to those ideas, like they need a lot of social upheaval. And the one thing that you can't convince people to do is to change their lives, is to uproot their lives or go in a different way. The reason why the Bernie and Hillary thing was able to be sold to a lot of Americans who didn't realize that they were kind of seeing democracy subverted in a way was because they were so familiar with Hillary Clinton. Right. They just knew her and they remembered the 90s, and she's been around. She was a brand that they understood. It's like getting somebody to drink a new kind of soda. You have to tell me why I got to stop drinking Coke, right? And then trying to get them to stop drinking soda at all is even harder. So a lot of my friends that I talked to, I was having a conversation with one of my homeboys, and he is brilliant. And I was telling him, don't dumb down what you're saying, but talk to the people as if they've never heard what you're saying before. So don't make it simpler for them, but understand that the ideas that you've been mulling over in law school and all of these different things for the last 15 years, you're literally talking to people who are considering some of this stuff for the first time. And I know that seems like it's not true, but it is. It's true.
Right.
And so that's a hurdle that that I think us as a coalition are going to have to jump over in the next coming years if there is a country left, which I'm not so sure there will be.
Yeah, I mean, we can get to that in a bit, but I think you're exactly right. Like it's how it's presented to people and making folks not feel threatened when you're introducing these new ideas that they can get on board with in isolation, right? Mm-hmm. But when you attach it to the politics or to basically figureheads, as you say, that they've known throughout their whole lives, there's going to be a difference. There's not going to necessarily be that one-to-one relationship. And I honestly think it's been the Democratic Party has done a lot, like the old leadership of the party, whether it's Pelosi or Clyburn and Biden on the presidential level, they've done a lot to sever those ideas that are economically populist that you describe from the politicians that could, in theory, be embodying that, because they really just want to be that old guard managers of the system that we already have. They don't want to upend anything. I mean, Biden basically tanked his reelection effort to continue to fund a genocide. Like, that is how committed they are to our institutions. And that's the difficulty there, is like, how do we get through to these career DC politicians? And I really think like the Democrats outside of Washington, whether it's Pritzker or Whitmer or these governors, they do a better job communicating it because they're not in this, like, frankly, corrupt ivory tower.
Well, the one thing, okay, so this is the tough part of the conversation, because this is the part where you can't be nice about it. One thing I will say about the left is we're nice. We still want to be nice. And that's great. Like, that's amazing. It's amazing that we still want to be nice as we're getting kicked in our nuts. It's great. Like, we still want to be nice. But some of this stuff, there's not a nice way to tell Clyburn that his time is over.
Yeah.
There's not a nice way to tell some of these people that have been around for a long time that it's over, that like it's time for something new. It's time. It's not that we didn't elect you guys to be kings, that the best way to kings and queens as well, that the best way to do this is to let new ideas, let there be some turmoil in the party. Let there be a battle of ideas, right? Let there be like a real tension there between the people that are coming in and recognizing the world in a new way and the people that have been there for a very long time that are set in their ways, that empowering squad members, empowering Ro Khanna, empowering all types of people like this that are seeing the world for what it is right now is the way that the party evolves and really brings in new people and fires them up to be a part of something that's not just recycling the old Democratic Party talking points, but their whole lives are in my opinion, their whole lives are revolving around what they are, which is big wig Democrats, right? And I'll tell you something else. The Republicans kind of did this, and this is the thing. The Republicans are fundamentally a different party now than they were 10, 15 years ago. They saw that their people were sort of getting tired of the regular Reagan era, Bush era. Yeah, they were getting tired of those people. Those people weren't resonating with them anymore. And some Dracula demon figure came along that people decided that they loved the stain of blood around his mouth. Excuse me. And they pivoted. And the Democrats just won't do it. It doesn't matter who comes along and sells something new and sells something that people get into. They won't do it. They will keep running the same play on Madden until it is no longer effective and they lose the game 72-0.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because like in 2008, even though obviously Obama won decisively, I think Sarah Palin was a precursor for the Trump movement. All of those folks that were excited about her in the grassroots ended up being Trump supporters. And that was a fundamental shift in the party, that there was resistance. Like, you had Lindsey Graham, who was running for president, shockingly, at the time, coming out and calling Trump a xenophobe and a racist. And like, they tried for a second, but the base selected him and they went with it. And it's just been a very different scenario, as we were talking about earlier, with the Bernie movement and the crushing of that. And the party is facing the consequences, but the problem is that we all face the consequences of it.
Yeah, I mean, they tried in the old political way, which is to appeal to the morality of people. And if you were to do that, then there's no possible way that he could be the president, right? If it was
Right.
just about that. It was just about decency. But it's just not about that anymore. And it's just not doing something because it's cruel is dead.
Yeah.
And I don't know where we go as a society after this, but it's either jokes or war. We got two choices. Either we just make fun of it all and we just have a laugh, or everything is a battle. But not doing something, Trumpism has killed any sense of decency, or not doing something just because it's cruel or makes somebody unsafe. And so in this political climate now where the right has become cool, it's become cool to be somebody who is completely unthinking, unfeeling, and bows to might and tech god oligarchs. Got to find a way to get back in there. And the only way to do it, to me, is to be a smartass. That's the only way. The only way to do it is to sit in the back of the class and snipe on these people. That's it.
Well, that's what we try to do. But like, it's also just maddening because, well, let me ask you this, because we're just so in the kind of political world. Your show covers both politics, but also like culture and sports and a wide range of topics. I was a little caught off guard, I think, by some of the influencers that I would never watch if I wasn't connected to politics, like Aiden Ross or the Fresh and Fit guys, or all of these basically right-wing influencers who made a real impact on this election. Like, what were you surprised that they were kind of incorporated into the MAGA movement? Because I had to do some cliff notes to catch up on these clowns.
No, I wasn't surprised. It's all kind of the same thing, right? It's a sense of misplaced masculinity. That's really what Trump is, right? Trump is the idea of a guy. Really, he's like the dude that's acting super male because he has a 3-inch penis, and like we've seen it. Like, he's the idea of a guy, and so the fact that those guys jumped onto that isn't surprising at all if you watch their stuff. But also, there's something else there, is that it's really lucrative. It doesn't matter who you are. If you go MAGA, they let you in. And this is the thing that has enamored and glamored our dear TYT people. Okay.
I can't believe you're following this. Truly, like, you're too cool to care about this.
What?
Is this not? I thought it was just an online thing, but I guess people who aren't just on political media care about this.
Emma.
Yeah.
You and Anna are the Cardi B and Nicki Minaj of the left.
Can I please not be Nicki?
This is so entertaining. I watch Jink go everywhere. I watch Jink on Mark Lamar Hill. I watch Jink on the Bituation Room. I watch Jink everywhere. He hasn't made 1 point in months. However, however, this is what I'll say.
Okay.
I get it. I get how they've been glamored, because when he was on there talking to Charlie Kirk, which think about that. The horror.
I know.
A Stephen King movie. When he was on there talking to Charlie Kirk, he goes, "Hey, if you agree with 5% of what the MAGA people say, they celebrate you. Yay, we love you, Jink." That is intoxicating. They will. I'm telling you, people, the way that they coalesce together to love whoever loves them in this age of internet likes, follows, and shares is something that is deeply, deeply, deeply alluring to people. Like,
it's financially lucrative too, but
absolutely.
But it's the fact that if you say you're on the left and you go on a right-wing show, you validate. It makes them feel less isolated from the rest of society as it becomes more unpopular. And we're seeing Trump's poll numbers shift pretty quickly, and Musk's as well, where it's like, see, this left-wing guy says I'm all right. He's saying a lot of my ideas make sense, so it should be totally fine. And that's Dave Rubin did this before. Jimmy Dore did this before. this is a thing that happens all the time because of the financial incentives you're talking about.
Right. And particularly when you've been, like, honestly, if it's just about TYT, if I stay there for 1 second, a lot of the ideas that they're about have been about in their time. These were things I didn't see. I remember when I first started seeing them, I was like, oh my God, look at that. Like, they're to the left of CNN. And wow, I didn't know that you could even, this is something we talk about on the college campus. Nobody's talking about this that actually has a platform. Now there's a lot more of that. But, you know, it's kind of like you switch up your song and dance if you're only in it for making songs and dancing. If it's principled, then it probably should not be corroded when the stakes are the highest. But when capitalism and commerce comes into this, and you need a new audience, if you're in it for the dancing and the singing, then that's what you'll do. Anyway, but like, I guess what I'm trying to say is while I do think that left media is in a good place in terms of the amount of voices, I go to you guys, I go to Kalinsky, I go to Pacman. I love Pacman. Pacman is the smartest man that's ever lived. Like, you'll say something to Pacman and he'll just go, yeah, the data actually shows, and he's just breaking people down. It's just very fun.
Yeah.
To watch him. So there's a lot of people out there, but what doesn't seem to be, like I said before, any connection between these people and the actual brass of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party wants to still control the message. They still want puppets more than they want, I guess the Republicans do too, more than they want to listen to these people who are telling them to do things differently.
Right. And then that kind of brings me to you guys over at Higher Learning. And by the way, I love Rachel too. I've loved her for a while, so give her my best. She's amazing.
You watching The Bachelorette?
I did watch. She's my favorite Bachelorette, but I know she doesn't like to talk about it. Yeah, she was my favorite because she wasn't she was a lawyer and she was smart as hell, and she wasn't like a pageant girl, which is mostly the women that they pick. That was when she got me really started getting into the show, when she was the first Black Bachelorette, and she's had an amazing career after this. Yeah.
See, Emma, this is the part of you that they need to do a little offshoot. The majority report sports and culture with Emma, because you be on there talking about sports.
Matt has made this point before. Yeah.
And I'll get mad. I'll be like, what does this have to do with the debt ceiling? That's not why I come to you. Okay. like get back on topic, Emma. Like, it's like, what are you know what I mean? And so, like, I'll come to you and I'll see you randomly just like talking about New York sports or something like that. I'm like, what happened with the vote? Are you gonna tell me what happened with the vote? I need to know. But you're nipping at it. You need
an
leftist
outlet.
Sports. Yeah,
I have a show. I have a leftist sports show. I just never promote it. We talk a little sports, but I need like a culture one too, because I have all these hot takes about Taylor Swift that get people mad. I'm kind of anti. Okay. But I can't talk about. I want to talk about you, Van. I want to talk about the fact that you guys chose to talk about Gaza on your show when you don't need to. You don't need to do that, right? You're not. This isn't like our show. I mean, for me, it was such a moral imperative to cover it every day, particularly when I was screaming and no one was talking about it. But why was it important for you to cover it on your show?
So I want to say a couple of things about that. Number one, we did a poor job. Okay. So, and I'll just be honest with you about it. And it was a lesson for me in terms of deciding where and how I was supposed to talk about things. Couple of reasons. Number one, our audience demands it. For as much as we go back and forth with our audience, and I call them the Reddit, I call them the soulless jackals, because sometimes they're mean. Okay, sometimes they're just mean. All right, they're just mean.
Yeah.
But they do hold us accountable. I remember one guy made a Reddit post and he said they were expecting with this Reddit to get a fan club, and what they really got was a Senate oversight committee. So, which is true. So our audience demanded that we cover what was happening in Gaza, and they demand that we cover things that are going on in the global South and across the world outside the sphere of just domestic issues, right? Number one. Number two, we still tipped into it. And the reason why is because we've learned the reason why we decided to talk about it because it was very deeply important to Rachel, very deeply important to me. But we weren't brave enough at the beginning. We just weren't. We weren't brave enough because particularly out here in Los Angeles, there's so many people that offend on both sides. And the truth of the matter of what's happening there is inconvenient to so many. And what I don't think that people understand was just how the city here in Los Angeles, particularly, I'm sure it exists at other places, was ripped apart culturally by what was happening, right? And how there were a lot of people who were losing things and a lot of people who didn't know what to say or how to say it or what was going on. And I give Mark Lamont Hill a lot of credit because I went deep into my studies. It's an issue I've been following for a while, but went deep into my studies, reading his book, reading some old Benny Morris books, reading some Chomsky stuff, reading a lot of different things to make sure that I understood what was going on. All that to say this. The truth of what's happening there, the truth of what has happened there is very clear and very simple. Is that the people there are being genocided, that there seems to be a will and a want to ethnically cleanse them, and that what has gone on there since the beginning has been deeply unfair and unjust to the Palestinians. Now, we can talk about a lot of different issues and how we feel about our Jewish brothers and sisters and wanting them to be safe, and how we feel about the existence of Israel and why the Jews need a homeland where they can be safe and secure. We can have all those conversations, but we have to have it through the lens of humanity, and we have to have it through the lens of what's fair and just on an international scale. And we were able to get there. But at first, like a lot of people, we were scared.
When people lost jobs. People lost jobs. In the entertainment industry, too, and you're in LA.
Right. And we were scared. And the fact that we were scared just means that we're human. But I think the humanity of it has to extend to being brave and about the way that you cover it and the way that you talk about it. Now, once again, I'll say this. There are a lot of Black people who I talk to now. Another issue that we have to deal with now is that there's been a wedge that's really been like created between the Free Palestine movement that was growing with a lot of Black Americans and a lot of Black Americans who feel disillusioned by the uncommitted movement that really they feel like took a chunk out of the Harris campaign's ass, and they really don't care now. And I think that there's a danger now that you're going to see some of these people at odds. And we have to talk particularly to Black people why justice for the global South and justice for people here, why that matters. Even I was disillusioned. I was very upset seeing a lot of people in the way that they attacked Kamala Harris, knowing that Trump would come in and do worse. But I mean, her and Biden just didn't do enough to restrain Israel. So people just are not going to vote for the people that killed their family members, and the people in there, they're not going to vote for them.
Yeah, it's hard to make that case, and it's on them at the end of the day. I mean, you know, it's we're all in this situation because a lot of people made a lot of selfish decisions who are very powerful, and we have these institutions that are, you know, invested in Zionism, invested in systems of oppression, and it's hard to disentangle. But with that said, Van, where can people find your show? I would recommend people start with your interview with Emmanuel Acho, which is one of the most satisfying debates I've ever seen in my life. I mean, you destroyed him. Yeah, it was needed.
Yeah, I wasn't in a good space. My girl had kicked me out of the house, so if you go back and watch that, like I was doing that from a hotel. So it was the wrong day to fuck around. But it was, but no, great higher learning on YouTube, higher learning, the Ringer Podcast Network, everything I'm doing over at the Ringer. Like I'm really into it. I have a great platform over there. But look, more than anything, you guys make sure you continue to tune into the Majority Report because they're keeping us going. I gotta keep up with what's going on with Crowder and what's going on with Patrick Bet David. Oh my God.
Yeah. Wait, Van, you never clarified. Am I Nicki or am I Cardi B? Please don't say what the other. Please don't say.
Remains to be seen, Emma. Only you can make that.
That is, get him off air. Outrageous. All right. Well, really, thanks so much for coming on, Van. It's great to talk to you. Glad we finally connected.
Of course. Bye, guys.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.